Wow, I just can't get over how good Pinecrest Junction looks. Cities Skylines 2, you have outdone yourself. Heyo and welcome to another episode of Pine Harbor County, where we will use and abuse the operating district mechanic. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week and is ready to enjoy this week's episode, as we have a lot to build and a good amount to plan for this week. In particular, we will be tackling some of the last items on our TLC checklist, planning the location and name of Pine Harbor County's next city, and adding some final touches to Pinecrest Junction's development. I have added chapters into the video, so if there is a particular part you're excited to see, please feel free to jump straight to that part. Without further delay, let's jump right on into this. So to start this week's episode, I do want to just dig straight into the TLC checklist, and I want to start with our medical coverage. So our current healthcare facilities in Pinecrest Junction does have a very good patient capacity, but we don't have the greatest of coverage, especially in the new suburban area we built a few episodes ago. So I actually wanted to come in here and replace our current medical clinic just with a hospital. I want to do this for a few reasons. One, this area right here is going to eventually be a little bit more built up, higher density, taller housing, and you can actually see that a little bit up here already. So the hospital might be a little overkill, but I think it's going to add a little bit of aesthetic to the skyline. So let's start by coming in to our development points and purchasing the hospital. And then let's redevelop this area a little bit and plop that bad boy in. So let's also come in here and make sure Pinecrest Junction is set for the operating mechanic. And then if we scroll back out, come into our info view, we should see, yeah, I wanted to see that all this had green coverage as well. Lovely, okay. Actually, let's awesome, looks good. All right, so now that we have our hospital in, I do also want to just prep Pine Harbor County and particularly Pinecrest Junction for emergencies and natural disasters. Because if you recall back in one of the first episodes, I think it was episode 0, we did leave that on. So I do want to come in automatically and unlock our large emergency shelter. Whew, that's a mouthful. Large emergency shelter. There we go. Okay, I do want to unlock this bad boy because this should actually hold about 25,000 citizens if I read the wiki right. Yep. So it has a shelter capacity of 25,000 citizens, and we are going to use the operating district mechanic on this one. So we have a population of a little under 14K in Pinecrest Junction. So I think this will actually suit our needs very well. And I am just going to come in here and turn off snapping. Kind of position it right there. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's a little interesting that we have a little bit of traffic back up there, but that's tomorrow Nama's problem. What's next on the checklist? Looks like the park maintenance building. So let's place the first park maintenance building in this area. Now this I do actually want over the industrial sector. Probably right here wouldn't be too bad of a spot. So let's come on in. Let's go down to the parks and unlock it. So the park maintenance building houses a maintenance office and a garage for vehicles. Well-maintained parks provide the most leisure benefits to visitors. Can be upgraded with extra garages and supply storages. So I want to place this in right about here. But I do want to take a look at these offices real quick and just see what they're producing before we do that. Okay. I think I want it to have its own road, so let's come in with an alleyway. And let's just line it up right there. Get the park maintenance building. Fight with the snapping tools a little bit. Lose to the snapping tools. And turn them all off. And then plop. I'm actually pretty proud of how straight we got that in there. So for a little bit of decoration, let's just wrap a road right around it. Awesome. Now we have our first park maintenance depot. All right, so I do also want to finalize the zoning in Pinecrest Junction, starting with this unzoned land to the west side of the couplet system. To get this area ready, I do want to come in and add another elementary school first, mainly due to our demand. So if I come in here and take a look, yeah, see, we're at full capacity for our elementary school. So I know this area is actually going to probably become more residential and commercial area. So I figured, yeah, let's put an elementary school in as well. So let's come on in here and try to find the best spot for it. So we could kind of set it off the road here and put it here. But I also know I want to add a couple extensions right away, as well as some parking. So let's actually build into the grid. Geez, those road tools are really nice. Awesome. So let's assign our district like we always have. I think I'm okay with that. It's a little uneven right here, but I'm not going to be too picky on that. Alright, so let's come back into our info view here. There's 220 or 2275 eligible, 2500 capacity. And I mean, eventually we're going to be zoning all this in. So, little preemptive, but let's add in our wings. And then, do we want to add the children's clinic? Don't really have the space for it. This is when you get some really nice, unique features on a build. doing just a little bit of detailing there because I just kind of really wanted to. We'll fill in the rest soon. So I was sort of debating putting in a playground right here to go with the elementary school, but you know, I kind of figured we have a lot of development points. Let's get some of the large parks and let's see. A large plaza and a large playground. Large playground that honestly still isn't very large. I mean, I guess that's large, but it wasn't as large as I was expecting. But let's actually put this right in here. We can decorate this up with some trees. And then how would this look? If we just got a visual in here. Yep, keeping it. I like it. We're keeping it. Adding parks, never unnecessary. And I like how that looks. Okay, so let's go through and zone everything. Obviously, we have a decent amount of demand right here. But the nice thing I really like about Cities Skylines 2 is you can zone. You can just go ham on the zoning. And the game will just fill in what it needs when it needs it. So we can literally zone this whole thing. And then as the simulation runs and demands are needed, it will take care of itself. So let's jump on in and let's do that. Okay, so we'll let that grow in a little bit and probably mess with some of the zoning a little bit. I wanted to do, well, I focused most of it kind of based on the suitability. So for instance, low density had pretty much no suitability out here. Maybe down this section here, but even then it's still not the greatest. Meanwhile, medium density did really good. And we have a decent, we have good suitability and a decent amount of customers right here. So figured we'd zone in a good amount of commercial in this area. And then we'll come back in our time lapse, the Beautifying the Build time lapse, and I've got a really fun gardening idea with this little geometry, uneven geometry that we made. Okay, so next I do want to extend our tram. So I actually want to pull the stops all the way up here. So let's go in. Okay, and I just want to follow this tram line here to the end to make sure this piece works here. And while we wait for the tram to come in, let's remove that crosswalk as we have one right there. Let's remove the stop signs. Let's just make sure this can come in and go back out on itself. Awesome. And then one last little tidbit, just because I don't want to forget. We're going to really want to make sure connectivity is a thing when we come in to do our Beautifying the Build time lapse. Okay. Alright, since Pinecrest Junction has developed a lot in the last month, let's start planning out our next city location. Now, remember, this entire map is one big county, and we have new mechanics that allow us to build in squares that are not adjacent to others. So we could actually purchase, 4 squares here and a couple squares out here. So we have a lot that we can work with, and I'm really excited by that opportunity. So I do have 4 locations in mind for our next settlement. The first location is outlined in white here, and this is where we planned our capital city. I did plan on the capital city being a slower build as I wanted it to grow kind of more organically, with low density building up to higher density as the demands were needed in the county. I did figure this area would have a combination of immaterial goods exported, but also serve as a place of imports and a high amount of tourism. But we also have the option of building our first oil exports. And I have drawn in some potential spots here in Dock Purple. I figured in these areas we could also build our vehicle factory, oil refinery, and fuel plant, or a combination of those signature buildings depending on what you and the viewers in general vote for in the comments. If we decide we don't want oil or to start the capital city, we could also build some ore, and I've outlined that in this blue color here. We could construct the ground earth signature building as the settlement's focal point. On this one, I do want to know if there's any other assets you'd like to see in a mining town, and obviously let that be known down in the comments. Finally, we could also begin constructing our first farming areas, which have been outlined in yellow. I think for this we could have a lot of fun building a more denser farming area with the dairy house and maybe 1 to 2 smaller settlements with just the exports. I think it may also be nice to feature the Streamline Diner and the one-stop station signature buildings in these areas as well, as they just give me really good, Midwestern, United States farming vibes. I'm not sure how else to describe that for the most part, but hopefully that makes a little bit more sense with those signature buildings. And if not, I'm sorry. Hopefully it'll make more sense if we actually build it. If you're down in the comments and you're voting on where we want to build our next settlement, please feel free to leave down some settlement some settlement names for ideas as well. I came up with the Pinecrest Junction one, but I really would love to hear what everyone else comes with. We don't have to keep everything pine. We don't have to keep everything tree. We could name it, Berrytown. That just came from the top of my head. We could name it Berrytown if we really want to. So let me know down in the comments below. Okie dokie, so I think we're at a good point to start wrapping up this episode. So let's jump into a Beautifying the Build time lapse and start adding some final touches to Pinecrest Junction. All right, so I think we got a decent amount of detailing in there. I wanted to take a really fast second here to give a great shout out to someone who mentioned down in the comments how we can change the names to our outside connections. Let me pull up our outside connection tab here so we can see them. So we can actually click and then interact with this. So in the comments, let me know what we want our neighbors to be called. And thank you again for letting us know about that great trick on how to change the names of the outside connections. So we have about 14 outside connections. So let's start generating some names for that and put those down in the comments below so we can start, interacting with our neighbors more, excuse me. And thank you again for letting us know about that trick. I really do appreciate that a lot. You know, this kind of feels like home. I felt like we just finally got into summer in this game and it's already snowing. Alrighty though, so let's conclude this week's episode on that note. Please don't forget to throw your comments below on the county's next development. And while you're there, if you liked the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you want to continue developing Pine Harbor County with us, please smash that subscribe button and follow along. Until next time, I hope you all have a phenomenal week.